It's no secret that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Of 2002 and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Of 2020 are two entirely different things. One of the most noteworthy changes in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! That still impacts the game today was the introduction of archetypes. The early decks of Yu-Gi-Oh! Were comprised of strategies that consist of powerful individual cards such as Magician of Faith, Mystic Tomato, and Jinzo. The first ever Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship was held in 2003, and it wasn't until 5 years later at the 2008 World Championships where an archetype had won Worlds for the first time ever. Fast forward to today, powerful archetypes such as Sky Striker, Eldritch, and Adamantipator have been dominating their respective metagames. Now, while brand new sets introduce powerful archetypes like the three that I just mentioned, they also introduced archetypes such as Rika, Marincess, and Dino Wrestlers, which
You're trash, bro. Bro, come on, bro. Come on, bro.
What's the matter?
Then, there's also archetypes that you probably don't even know exist, such as Light Rays. However, I am here to shine the light, haha, get it? On those archetypes. My name is BearXBear, and you are watching the Worst Of series. Phantom Rage has officially arrived in the TCG. We had plenty of contenders for this edition of the Worst Of series: Mutants, Dual Avatar, Raid Raptors, just to name a few. However, there was one in particular archetype that had sentimental value to me. There was a point in my life where I would eat, sleep, and breathe volleyball. Wake up, practice. After school, practice. After practice, practice.
Talking about practice, man.
When I saw Libero Spiker, I knew that I had to choose UA for this edition of the Worst Of series. For those who don't know how UA work, think of it like a pro wrestling tag team. You have one guy starting in the ring, and then you make the hot tag to the next guy to get the job done. This is why Libero Spiker is insane for the deck. He tags himself out in your opponent's main phase, and then you get to strategically choose which interruption you need to use. Then you have UA Playing Manager, which can act as either a targeting pop or a Dark Ruler no more. And he can trigger in the hand to summon himself once a UA monster is normal or special summoned. Looks like the Warriors weren't the only team to get a new arena this season. UA Hyper Stadium is another version of the original field spell, which acts as an in-archetype Rhoda. However, it doesn't entirely replace the original field spell, as the two go hand in hand together. Unfortunately, the next two cards are pretty subpar in comparison. We have UA Locker Room, which replenishes your resources and acts like a mulligan, but it's just way too slow, and you have Rebounder to recur those resources anyways. UA Man of the Match is weak not only because it's a battle trap, but its effect summons monsters in defense position, which gives you even less of a reason to try and run it. Will a new arena and the addition of a new tag team to the roster be enough to propel UA to any meta relevant contention? We're about to find out. If it's your first time watching, the rules are simple. We play 5 singles matches and 1 best 2 out of 3. We don't do that cherry picking garbage here. All games must be played consecutively, and rage quits will not count towards the wins or losses. So without further ado, let's begin. We begin game number 1 up against Infernobles. God, I can't wait for Smoke Grenade to get banned. We open up with Gamma and Imperm, which is pretty nice. And I'm not scared of Dolphin here because there's nothing he can rip out of my hand. We hold the Imperm for Assault's second effect just in case he has an extender to make a second copy. I know Red Layer is one of the other cards in his hand, so I thought Gamma on Linkross was the play here, but of course he had a Monster Reborn. Honestly, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous how well this deck can play through hand traps. I think you guys can probably tell how dead inside I sound right now. Like, I hate this deck. He ends on a single Savage, and whoa, wait, we can do this. We draw another signing deal, which is perfect because now we can bait the negation. We end up getting Dunker out because this way we can run over his entire board and pop the Savage after. So my opponent can't do 25 minus 21. His brain completely implodes, and it doesn't matter. We had this game won regardless. So yeah, we are starting off 1-0. Alright guys, you're in for a treat. Here is a deck you don't see very often. we're up against Cyframes, and boy was I relieved to see him not make Verte. When he made Lambda, I'm like, alright, yeah, we have a pretty good chance to win this game. So the fact that he made Lambda, I assumed he had Gamma in hand or something, because really that's like the only one that I know. So we pick apart his board with ease, and then out came the beta. I didn't know they had a battle hand trap. What? Lol. It is what it is. For his turn, he makes a Savage Dragon. Thankfully, we have a play to set up a chain block with our player manager, and that's going to completely steal the game. We're off to a really strong 2-0 start, and now we're up against another pretty unique deck. Looks like we're going up against a giant synchro pile, so he does end up messing up his combo a little bit, but it's completely fine. We repair the game state, nobody got hurt. He ends on a pretty, I would say, board, but yeah. Opening Impermanent Pankratops is pretty good. Also, just another example why Pankratops by itself is an amazingly powerful card. So, we go apple picking with his board. With Pankratops and Blockbacker to threaten his depleted resources, he's got pretty much nothing to do here, and now we are up 3-0. Somehow we're undefeated. UA best deck, baby. Let's go. So we're up against Salamangreat, which sounds like it can be a pretty tricky matchup for UA. We gamble the normal, but of course he has something like a mining in hand, and now I'm playing against a guy who thinks he can normal summon twice per turn. We're playing against a complete bucket, so I think I completely misplayed there pretty badly. No idea why I didn't just bring back Dunker and pop the back row. Completely cost me huge here. That's way too passive a play to make against someone who's completely depleted in resources. Imperm on the Balinks felt pretty necessary to try and prevent the snowball, but yeah, we really screwed ourselves here with that boneheaded play to say the least. While we're able to clear the board, top deck Desires is a really good draw for him. The Desires also makes me panic because I'm like, if he draws Ash, my interruption is completely gone. But I definitely should have just risked it at that point. I'm forced to pop my own midfielder to prevent him from being ran over because, you know, I only had 500 life points. And I can't believe I lost to this guy, dude. Oh my god, I threw so freaking hard. Alright, it's our last singles match. We're 3-1 and we're going up against Nurseburn. You just hate to see it, especially after that throw. I do not main deck an Optimistic Mind, so I am pretty screwed in singles. Our hand looked decent, so I threw the Imperm because honestly, when the hell else am I going to use it in this matchup? Let me just not die to burn here this turn. So, we want to kill off his monster here with Dunker so we can pop a back row and start depleting him of his resources. And when he played Sanctum, I was gonna laugh because I'm like, I don't use the extra deck, buddy. And then out comes the Moral Tech, and yeah, that completely ruined my day. Alright, so my life points were beginning to go down faster than my score in Jeopardy when I went up against Blade and Shunping. However, I still did way better than Farfa, so at least not the worst Yu-Gi-Oh! Jeopardy player ever. I had one job. I assumed that back row was Scythe. It was just sitting there. I'm like, it has to be Waking or an artifact. Boom. Out comes Mystic Mind. All I had to do was just not special summon. You see, that's the thing with Rogue. You gotta play perfect the entire game. One mistake and you just lose. That's really 2 games that I shouldn't have lost, and oh, that is just so depressing. I was this close to sweeping all of the singles games. Now it's time for a bigger test, the best 2 out of 3. Spoilers, we're up against Dogmatica Synchro Eldritch. At first I was like, oh god, I do not want to read DDD cards, but it was just a synchro engine. So we threw the blind imprint because I just assumed it was the right thing to do here. And dude, it's so hard for me to deal with Dragoon while playing this deck. He throws the negate on the extravagance. We do what we can, but the drop win is just complete overkill. No chance here for me. He goes skitty pop pop, and yeah, I give up. Game number 2, and I decide to go first, and I draw the Gozen match. Don't you love seeing your side cards? I know I do. The Ash hurt, but the Gozen should be enough, right? Nope. This dude ripped a Lightning Storm off the top of his deck, dude. What a rip. Actually insane. And now that I start seeing the Eldritch and Dogmatica engine in his deck, I know things are pretty grit. Punishment alone would probably end up ending any chance that I have at a turn. But you know what? We actually do end up doing a cute play with midfielder to dodge the punishment, but him having droplet and tactics is just way too nasty. You know, you're screwed when you see somebody normal summon an Ash Blossom. I see Verte, let me pack my stuff, good game, we tried our best. And you know, while it is possible to steal games with this deck, the high consistency doesn't entirely make up for the lack of good cards in this archetype. So I hope I got to showcase what the deck can do. Now, let me show you guys the list that I decided to play. Alright guys, welcome to the deck profile. So, first off, we ran 3 copies of Libero Spiker. This is your main normal summon of the deck, and he's also your main play starter. You absolutely have to max out on him. Our other normal summon is 1 copy of midfielder. Before, I guess, Libero Spiker came out, you probably had to play 3 copies of him, but now that you have Libero Spiker, you can afford to just play 1 copy. He's nice to have because he does have some synergy with the original field spell, and I guess he also has some pretty niche interactions that, you know, can come up. Next, we have 1 copy of Perfect Ace, which is an Omni Negate, 1 Rival Rebounder, which is really nice to recur some resources. Then we have Blockbacker, which isn't as good with Link monsters now available, but he still is better than some of the other options that you have to play for UA. Then we have 2 copies of Dreadnought Dunker, which synergizes really well with the Equip spell, and also I really like that he does piercing damage and that he does pop a card after he inflicts damage. And also the pop is during damage step, so if your opponent has something like an Imperm set, they wouldn't be able to activate it after. Next, you have to max out on Player Manager. This card is nuts. He activates when a UA monster is normal or special summon, and then you have the option of either using him as a Dark Ruler no more or as a targeting pop. Next, we have 1 copy of Pankratops. This is a going second deck. I love playing Pankratops in going second decks. He's really good to clear boards with, and also he's an Earth monster, which, you know, we are playing Ghost Dimension aside to test it out, and yeah, so that works really well together. Next, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom. We have the Gamma package. We have 3 copies of the new field spell Hyper Stadium, so this acts as a Rhoda, searches you any UA card, also can search any FA card, but nobody really cares about that. Next, we have Stadium, which on normal summon of a UA monster, you can search any other UA monster from your deck, which is really nice, so that works really, really well with Spiker. And yeah, also when a UA monster is special summoned, all monsters you currently control gain 500 attack, so yeah, that's also really, really good. It can come up in really important scenarios, but also you have to remember that the gain effect is mandatory. So once a UA monster is special summoned, it has to activate. It's a mandatory effect. There's no way around it. You cannot choose when to activate it. 1 copy of Terraforming because the field spells are important for this deck. 3 copies of UA Signing Deal. One thing you have to note is that your life points are a resource. If you can use your life points to win the game, then the cost of it doesn't really matter. Next, we're playing UA Power Jersey, which is the Equip spell that I mentioned earlier. It gives your UA monster a 1000 attack and defense boost. Also, if it battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage it inflicts to your opponent is doubled, which is really nice for closing out games. Next, we have 3 copies of Extravagance. This deck does not care about its extra deck. Extravagance works really, really well with this deck. 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods to send penalty box. 1 copy of Rhoda because, you know, Libero Spiker is a level 4 warrior, which is really good. 3 copies of Imperm, and finally 1 copy of UA Penalty Box. Mainly, you use it with Foolish Burial Goods to banish it and search a UA spell, but the damage step effect can come up in some scenarios and can actually be super clutch. Next, for the extra deck, nothing too special. A lot of it is just Extravagance and Dogmatica fodder. We're playing 1 copy of Omega and 1 copy of Lambda because we do have the Gamma package. 2 copies of Rip, Roar, and Roaster, which is an idea I actually got from packs. So, if this card in your possession is sent to your graveyard by your opponent's card, you can target 1 card in your graveyard except a Link monster, add it to your hand. Like, this can come up. It's good because you are playing Extravagance, so in case you do banish some of your other Maximus targets, like, at least you have this. So, next we're playing 2 copies of Unicorn and 2 copies of Nightmare Phoenix, just good generic removal. Then we're playing Cyber Dragon Nova with Mechaba, you know, for Maximus. And then we're playing 3 copies of Elder Entity Antis. So yeah, that wraps up the extra deck. Nothing too special, like I said. For this side deck, we did play 1 UA Mighty Slugger. So we kept this in because we did want to play around with some of the other UA monsters. So this one, just in case I had to play against something like Sky Striker in the best 2 out of 3, it could have come up because it would have been really good against Ray. 2 copies of Lancia because, you know, dinos are annoying, and I guess Elvish is a thing too. 2 copies of Gamma Seal because this deck struggles really hard to deal with Dragoon. So yeah, you kind of have to play this. 3 copies of Nibiru for combo, 1 Feather Duster, 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, and 3 copies of Gozen Match, because you know, in some cases, it's not too bad to blind first, and since all of your UA monsters are Earth, this doesn't hurt you in any way whatsoever. The next edition of the Worst of series is going to be in December after Genesis Impact is released, so if you enjoyed the series, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Also, if you don't mind, I'd really appreciate if you liked and commented on the video. It helps me out a lot, and I actually really enjoy reading all of your comments. My Discord, Twitter, Instagram, and sponsor links are down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Bear, signing off. Peace, guys.